Awesome.
All right, awesome. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So to start out with, tell me your full name, your title, and the company that you have.
My name is Sarah Stenuf. I am founder and CEO of Ananda Farms, and I am also founder and director of Veterans Ananda, which is a nonprofit.
So tell me about your journey that saw you starting a hemp farm.
Oh boy. Well, I'm a retired Apache crew chief from the Army. When I got out, I wasn't really sure what to do because I got out for epilepsy from a TBI and PTSD. So I wasn't really going to be able to have a career on the helicopter, the bird. And I didn't know really where I wanted to go, but I did find peace and find solstice in farming and in nature. And out of that came to fruition of getting a farm and doing all that. But the journey of hemp itself and finding hemp and cannabis, it kind of found me, I guess you could say. I was on a plethora of medications for epilepsy, sleep, pain, all of this. My seizures were under control, but with the plethora of medications I was on, it was making a lot of my social and psychological issues worse. And I had a lot of suicidal ideations, homicidal ideations. The medication was just taking control. I was like a walking zombie. And a fellow vet introduced me to cannabis and its benefits because I was like, oh, I don't need to smoke it. In the military, you couldn't smoke it. And, we always turned to alcohol and heavier drugs in the military because we knew cannabis would pop hot within 30 days. So it's something that was really shunned upon. So, but when you're at that last resort and I know other word to turn to, I tried it and I realized my take as needed medication wasn't needed as much. And a lot of my mood swings and social anxieties and sleep issues were getting better. And then I just learned about the plant, learned about my body, realized how much I really love botanical medicines and farming. So out of that came Veterans Ananda, a nonprofit that provides short duration, high impact retreats and long-term post-traumatic growth programs free to veterans, and the for-profit subsidiary Ananda Farms, which generates revenue so we can build tiny homes in our vet village to our nonprofit, and we grow our own hemp and medicine for vets. So it's kind of how we got there.
That's awesome. I love that you came to it not really sure what to expect, not really thinking that it would help you, and found that all of a sudden these take as needed medications were not needed any longer.
Yeah, it was weird. It was realizing I was able to eat more because my social anxieties were down or my medications weren't messing up. My light sensitivity was down. These little things popped up more than the bigger things. You notice the little things. I don't have migraines every day. I'm not sensitive to all of the lights that are in this freaking house. And then when that started triggering, I was like, maybe I can do it and spark the research and find out I wasn't the only crazy person out there using plants as medicine. I was like, ooh, cool.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I think we've seen such a resurgence in the past couple of years of going back to these really holistic medical treatments that we've used for thousands of years without truly understanding why or how they're helping us.
Impeded research a while back when we taxed it and then untaxed it and scheduled it and made it illegal. I mean, we impeded research for so many years. And we're legalizing it. And yes, California had it legalized for over a decade, and there's states that had it, but it's still a shell shock. It's still a socialization shock to society. Because even growing up or in the DARE programs, you learn and your parents, and it's embedded to you that it's so wrong for so long. And these doctors pay hundreds of $1,000s in tuition to turn to all these medications instead of plants. And they're like, wait a minute, now you want me to teach about plants? Well, what the hell did I pay $250,000 in tuition for?
Yeah.
It's a shock to society. And it's just Western society. We don't know yet how to incorporate traditional and non-traditional medicine together. And we got to realize that this research and this medicine has been around for a long time. It's just Western society that's behind. But Israel, the Netherlands, even Australia and Canada right now surpass us in beautiful research. So just look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've just been fed all this information that when you actually look at the science is not true. And you're like, well, what the hell? I feel tricked. I feel like something important has been kept from me that could have helped me a while ago.
Yeah. Like why?
Exactly.
Saved in gas. You get a headache, you pop a Tylenol. You don't turn to a natural botanical. You can't sleep at night, take some Benadryl or a sleep aid. And people are, yes, melatonin's natural, but we produce natural melatonin. So if you take it every night, you're going to deplete your natural melatonin, become reliant on it more. So we even have to give the proper education in regards to these botanical and plant-based medicines too. But why not turn to lavender, eucalyptus, or a nice sage at night when you can't sleep? We're so used to popping a medicine and a pill that can solve everything, and there's no one magic pill, but there definitely is a pill for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a plant too, but we have such a steep learning curve in agriculture and such a steep learning curve in botanical medicine that people don't realize the majority of our medicines that we take from doctors stem from the molecular, if not atomic makeup of plants outside.
Mhm.
Research in what they're making in a lab synthetically for you comes from that of what they learned from plants in nature.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at the research to see how much our ancestors actually got right and how much they did know about using these holistic medications and treatments to help us. And we kind of just threw them all aside when we went into this big pharmaceutical revolution.
Yeah. Yep. We all know what.
Yeah. So you started Veterans Ananda, and then you started Ananda Farms to fund Veterans Ananda. Can you tell me a little bit about the process that saw you starting a for-profit hemp farm?
Actually, Ananda Farms started off, it's DBA'd, doing business as, from Happy Healing 420. Happy Healing 420 was originally my social media alias. Before medical marijuana, before recreational that just passed, there was medical. Before that, there was nothing. And so when there was nothing, when I started taking it, I realized I didn't trust what was on the streets. I didn't like what was on the streets. It was never consistent. I didn't know how they were growing it or what they were growing it. I could tell you right now by taking it, if it makes me racy, that you harvested it too soon and didn't dry it right. If it makes me too mellow when it's supposed to be an upper, you waited too long. So I wanted to grow my own, be more affordable and know what it was, but it was illegal. And I had a kid. And my wife has a master's degree from SU and is a clinical therapist. And I'm sitting here years ago when my kid was a baby growing because I wanted to know my own medicine, not just be cost effective, but I wanted to know. And as I was doing that, I was doing research, finding doctors to help me wean off the shelf life of my medication, incorporate medicine and other botanicals. I was finding other vets who were using it. So I had a place to vent and have a lot of therapeutic, talk therapy is important just as much. And just had a platform event. And I created a social media alias predominantly on Instagram called Happy Healing 420. And I would go online and we'd share grow techniques. We'd share varieties that would work for us, what things were helping, what we were doing wrong. And then High Times hit me up and asked if I would fly out to Nevada and do a panel. And I'm like, well, I've never really shown my face at this point, let alone come out. But yeah, let's do it. And I did it. And flew out there and met some amazing people, connected with some amazing vets, and just got really inspired to do more. And as I started upping my grow, super closets with Kind LED and Gorilla Glow tents sent me out a huge tent system with Kind LED lights and bubble flow bucket systems so I can up my grow. And I'm like, obviously they knew where I lived and that they know where I was at and they knew what I was growing. But, at that time it was all tomatoes, in my basement. And it was just an awesome relationship of building trust in people in the community of being like, listen, this is what you do, this is what you use it for. You also give it away free to vets, let's help out. And it was kind of a cool underground system we built. And High Times gave me that release to finally show my face. And then I had some knowledgeable people, paralegals, lawyers, insurance people come up to me and go, listen, you're really establishing yourself. You should consider your alias now to also be an advocate. You're not an entrepreneur. This was before companies or anything. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was an advocate and activist. And they were like, you should really take off liability yourself and consider becoming an LLC, or sole proprietor. Because as you travel and talk and do all this, you're going to want liability on yourself. And they were smart about it and they were right about it, especially with cannabis not even being legalized. So I did. I created Happy Healing 420 into an LLC. And then as talks of medical came about, I really got heavy into the assembly and into the Senate, went to private and public assembly meetings, helped advocate and adjudicate so PTSD would be on it and all that. And then now, years later, I still speak at private and public assembly meetings and work with people, help out with the MRTA bill. And now we have legalization, but about 3 years ago, or was it 4 years ago? My math's all messed up, so don't quote me. But they opened up hemp here. And I was like, I've always wanted for the nonprofit a farm with opportunities, with this veteran village, with these retreats and homestead, but there's no way to really fund it. You're going to throw gal after gal, event after event, chasing sponsor after sponsor, and you're going to run crazy unless you create a for-profit subsidiary. So out of that, Ananda Farms grew. We got a DEA licensed hemp cultivar. We start generating proceeds and getting sponsorships and a lot of recognition into our nonprofit. We have local high schools build our tiny homes for the nonprofit, and the nonprofit came about, and we're now looking for solid land to put the tiny homes, because right now they're here at the farm that we share with the farms at the hemp grow. So we're in a unique position now to scale and maintain those operations for the nonprofit because of the for-profit entity.
That's awesome. I love that you've been able to create kind of this self-sustaining cycle of a for-profit business that is able to give opportunities and fund your nonprofit. That's really about giving back both to your community and to the larger community of veterans.
Absolutely. We try our best to be not just sustainable, but definitely regenerative around here. We know sustainability, you only go for so long until you can't maintain that sanity anymore. You need to know how to maintain those operations and then scale those operations and continue to maintain them and adapt. And a cool thing I've learned with nonprofit is heavily on a farm, is especially growing up a lot in the farming, you learn efficiency, cost effectiveness. And people preach it, but you're always told to practice it. Whereas in a nonprofit, you really sometimes have to slow back on efficiency and listen to communication, because communication is key in a nonprofit. So it's unique running both operations here because it's a lot about development, and a lot about training, a lot about creating education and opportunities. So it's uniquely run here. We have multiple avenues of communication and working together while practicing efficiency. And we heavily preach that, yes, sustainability is great, but regenerativeness is awesome. And just like an entrepreneur, you want to think of the different ways of making income, portfolio, passive, etc. On the farm, we want to think of the same way. So we always try to find ways to do it. And originally we were just a cultivar. My niche was nursery growing. But then I realized processors would screw us on tolling costs. Farmers were getting jacked on genetic costs. So unless you were a seed to branded product, vertically integrated, I guess you could say, one way or another within the system, farmers were getting screwed. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not giving up my niche of farming and turning into a processing entity because I can't live with myself. You gotta fucking do both.
That's incredible.
I always think of ways to be regenerative around here to help us. The sweat equity is true. There will be times where you don't make equity and you don't have that income, and the sweat equity that you put into it, the long nights, the payless years that you put into the company pay off. And as long as you come up with those different ways to create that income and stability, you'll be regenerative and not just sustainable, which would be awesome.
I love that. I think you made such a good point. Sustainability can only go on for so long. You can only sustain something for so long.
Sanity.
So does this focus on regeneration also expand to, I know you guys grow your hemp outside, does it expand into the farming practices you use in terms of like soil and lack of pesticides and chemicals?
Absolutely. We grow all organic, all natural. We do our best not to even use any chelated ingredients or isolated salts. Like Root Pouches has donated our woven powdered rooches for when we do nursery grows in the greenhouse. Coast of Maine donates all of our organic soil. So we're talking seaweed, kelp, the worm castings, alfalfa, all of it, all the good stuff. But we use no pesticides, no herbicides, no fungicides, no bottled ingredients on our land. background a little bit on the land. I acquired this from a Mennonite. I was pretty picky about the land. I wanted it to be organic. I wanted to know who practiced it on it. Preferably USDA, had to have its own wells, timber rights, mineral rights, all of that. To the point where my wife was like, you need to pick a plot of land or I'm going to buy one and you're going to live separate at this point. So after my awesome real estate agent and broker were like, listen, we're bootstrapping and trying everything, I just got in the car and went door to door. And I came upon this place that I'm at here years ago. And Paul ended up calling me 4 years ago saying, hey, Sarah, I'm getting old. The dementia's kicking in. Mom passed away. And Paul, fun fact about him is he's a Mennonite. And he planned for the future of this property. And it was all organic, all USDA approved. I mean, this guy knew what he was doing. I loved him. And he was like, just, you got to take over the business. I want to see it stay agriculture. Can you just take over what I owe on it, finish my lettuce contracts, and then do what you want? So we took over a farm. We have 22 acres here, 20 acres across the street. It's all natural, all organic. Prior Mennonite owned. The family across the street and this family have owned it for over 70 years. 2 separate wells, its own creek backed up to the river, mineral timber. I'm like right by the Finger Lakes where the glaciers melted for a reason and left it mineral enriched. So we practice everything we can organically and use nothing on our plants.
I love that.
Thank you. We love it too. We don't even use plastic on our rows, so it's all hand weeding. No here.
I love that you gave a shout out to the Finger Lake soil. I'm only an hour east of you, and I am such a fan of things that are grown in the Finger Lakes. And I'm so excited for more cannabis cultivars to come here and for us to see what grows well in this really unique soil and climate.
Absolutely. It's definitely mineral enriched, no matter where you're at, whether it's dark soil, white soil, like the more browns. There is some clayey spots, but it's overall very loomy, very sandy, and very mineral enriched everywhere. So I see cannabis taking off quite well. And a lot of people are like, well, what about your winters? Hate to break it to you, but if you get a varietal, now the problem is a lot of people are buying genetics that came out of a place next to the equator, high humidity, used to 100-degree days with forest fires. They're not stable varietals or genetics here in New York. Ours are straight from Delhi, New York. Open pollinated, aerated organic seeds from Ravenview Genetics. They are so stable and amazing here. Our girls love the winter as much as our kids do. Because when the cola profile pops up and it's right before that rain period, so they're not too bunched so you don't get mold or anything, but you get that nice dew in the morning, the terpene profile hits, that nice smell hits. But when that first light frost hits, what happens is it draws the trichomes, that little mushroom, those frosty things on the plant, it draws the trichomes out and it draws the flavonoids out. So it smells good, it tastes better, and it makes it look pretty as hell because when the cold temperatures plummet, it draws the phosphorus out, and that's how you get your beautiful blues, pinks, and purple buds. A lot of us see the purples. Give you a hint. Most of the time, sometimes it's got to do with genetics. Most of the time, it's because they depleted the phosphorus, and that's the only reason you got a purple bud. And that's what Mother Nature does in the cold for us. So they like the winter.
That's awesome. I've talked to a couple other farmers about, farming outside with the winters here and the cultivars that we're going to get, but I've not yet talked to anybody who's currently doing it. And that's so exciting to hear that they like the frost. They do well. They don't need 90-degree days for 3 months in a row.
Well, I'll admit, as a farmer, like right now we're pulling long ass shifts, and then I get home and do all that. Then during harvest time, we're out there about 18 hours plus a day before in the morning, all that. But I am constantly on my phone. I am like meteorologist number 2, checking the radar, checking the temps, because you have to check the dew point. You have to check the humidity. You have to see where you're at, because if humidity and dew point are at certain levels, I got to be worried for mold and mildew. So I might have to go out and cut the colas, the top part of my plant, and leave the bottom part, because that tight cluster is very compact and dense. And if water gets trapped in there and the temperature fluctuates, and then we're having like a 70-degree day come the next day when it just hit 40 at night, that heavy sun with no wind will trap it and mold it. So I might have to go out in the middle of the night and cut the top of the plant. So it is constant monitoring of temperature, humidity points. And I am in panic mode for like the last 2 weeks, on our toes, like having everything ready. So, but yeah, they really like 1 to 2 light frosts to draw them out. I'm not worried even if they hit a second one. It's awesome.
I'm so excited for the expansion of cannabis and hemp throughout the East Coast, because I think there's been such a dominance of West Coast genes and the plants that do well out there. And we're not seeing the full expression of the plant and the possibilities that you can get when you play to the climate and the soil that you're in.
Yep. Oh yeah. Even here when they're in the greenhouse, I love doing a bunch of different tests, whether it be pest or wind resistant or light control and deprivation. Just seeing what they can withstand and handle. And some of the most beautiful things and beautiful, most amazing plants that we've had come out have come out of mistakes. You know, I'm in my tent and realize a fan dropped down because I forgot to secure it right. And it smashed open, broke a couple of the plants when I first started growing. And I came back the next day after binding them together and twisting them together. And they came back with like biceps. These girls are really great. They can handle a lot more stressors and tests as long as we put them to that. And as long as we learn from them, they're very viable, very stable. At a young age, they may be a little bit more picky, but if you at a young age, you'll have crazy genetics. And I mean, that's the start of what you're going to produce in your farm. So seedlings in the nurseries where it starts. That's why with our girls, they go through stress tests all the time. They go in, they go through heat, they go through light, they go through everything. And then they go out in the field and they're strong and sturdy and ready for it.
That's awesome. So how much of your farm is currently dedicated to hemp for CBD, and how much is currently dedicated to hemp for industrial productions?
Well, it's all industrial hemp. So we have an industrial hemp pilot program. So it's all considered part of the industrial hemp program. We grow here. I got land across New York, but until technology becomes more logical and becomes more cost effective to grow elsewhere, especially in regards to grain and fiber, we're not starting that up because we're really weak. There's so many textiles that can come out of the infrastructure, and that's because of the lack of textiles and technology, and because the plant is heavily commercialized and commoditized. So we lack a lot of necessary research to build this shit. So grain and fiber is very weak, especially here in the state of New York, as opposed to other southern states where they have a lot of this. So up here we grow for flour. I grow roughly right now on our 42 acres. I have well over about 25 acres in production right now of flour production. I'm hoping to do grain and fiber here soon. I would love to. But even once you grow it and get the machinery that costs more than your mortgage to get, there's also no way to process it and make it something into realistically affordable for yourself or the customer. So we're holding off from grain and fiber, sadly, for a while. I would love to eventually even possibly make hempcrete out of it one day and build our own tiny homes for a veteran village out of it. But it's just not realistic right now. So we stick to flour. We have our own product line. We sell it at AnandaFarmsNY.com. And you can go any of the social media sites, or we're opening up a storefront here at the UPIC operation here in October. On October 9th is our grand opening for our store and UPIC. And we have like tinctures, topicals, capsules. We'll have a bath line at that time as well. So expanding here soon.
That's awesome. I was just talking to somebody earlier this week, and when I asked them, where they saw the future of the industry going, they surprised me because they said it's going into grains and fibers. The infrastructure there really is lacking and needs to be built up. And that's where the biggest changes are going to happen over the next 10 years. What do you think about that?
I think, yes, I would love to see more research. And when the research comes out, beyond medicine, but also textiles will advance. We will see advancements and developments in everything that we don't realize. Whether it's our clothing, our computer, things we eat, things we consume, medicine, everything we build and have right here, everything's going to change. And I think as we get more into the research of the flour and more into the research of the grain and fiber portions, even the monoecious breeds out there, everything is going to change. Not just textiles, medicine, everything, all of it. And that's for all botanical medicines too. Fungi, lavenders. I mean, people are now turning more to essential oils than ever before, which is great. But I think with the more research in fungi and botanical medicine, medicine itself will change, but textiles will. I can't even imagine. It's going to be like a sci-fi channel, I think.
It is. I mean, imagine you walk into a house and you've got hempcrete and hemp insulation and hemp wood. I mean, you could build 50 to 75% of what you needed off of one plant.
If not more. I mean, there's over 38,000 plus known textiles. But even in my room right now, I'm looking around my room and there's not a single, besides maybe my aloe plant. I cannot make my aloe plant out of hemp. That's a fact. But everything else besides my aloe plant, I don't think there's a single thing in this room right now that I can't think of that can't be made out of hemp. The paper, the plastics, the coffee mug, coffee itself now even has hemp in it. I mean, everything, the wood, the metals.
It's crazy.
I see the possibilities are endless, but again, there's so many amazing and beautiful ideas that I hear all the time that people have. And all I can say is don't give up on them. Keep doing them. If you got it, keep doing it, but be realistic. See things clearly and be realistic. Right now, there is no technology, and whatever you pay for is going to be so price gouged, it's ridiculous. So hold your ideas, keep them dear to you, share them with only few and far between, keep them going, but be realistic with yourself. And there's just not too many opportunities right now for people to let their dreams truly take off because of the weakness we have in all this technology and in research. So we need more research. We need more farmers. We need more people to grow grain fiber and to grow hemp plants, but we're not there yet. And farmers are blamed for a lot of it. So
yeah, that's unfortunate. I know some people are saying, oh, the hemp bubble's going to burst, the CBD, like all the farmers who went to plant CBD, but you can't blame them for trying to take advantage of something that 10 years down the line is going to make everything look completely different. It's just starting at the beginning of a new trend. You really have an uphill battle ahead of you.
It's constant learning. You got to be okay in this industry to make mistakes, to have fuck ups beyond act of God, your own, like beyond Mother Nature coming in, and you got to be okay with yourself, doing that same thing. And I think like right now, a lot of people don't understand how much needed research and everything. You're going in blindfolded at the beginning. We're on our third year and I feel more confident than ever, but there's still more research that needs to be done. And a lot of people do go in this thinking you're going to get rich going fast. And they don't take the time to do the research at the time to listen to the land, let alone the crop. And they realize, why can I sell it? Where am I going? What am I doing with it? I thought I was going to grow hemp and make all this money. And it's like, it takes a little bit more than that, and I see as it coming out, a lot of, yes, farmers are blamed right now, especially here in the state of New York. There's too many farmers and it's so oversaturated and too many people are growing. It's like, no, it's not true. We actually don't have enough people growing. The problem is we don't have enough technology. We don't have enough infrastructure, and we don't have processing at that. There's no place for a farmer to cost effectively grow, make these products. There's no way for a farmer to turn into it and sell it direct to a consumer, because farmers are really bad at that. So for this, it's the sales for the farmers. There's no way to process it. There's no way to manufacture it. There's no way to put it into it. So we need more people. We need more research, more ways to process it, make it more cost effective for farmers. Until then, we're getting blamed on that we're growing too much. We're not growing shit.
That's not the issue. The issue is we're so focused on production of things like corn and soybean, we have no technology to support anything else.
And there's not much farmers growing corn or anything can do. I mean, more shits pass through the federal level in regards to animals and farms. Not many farmers can switch over from corn. Their hands are tied. So we're sitting here with people that don't even have a choice. They got to grow the corn, but for us, we're trying to grow what we can, but there's not even the place to do what we need or want to do with it that's affordable or effective or even accessible. Why grow more if we can't even handle the limited we got? We need to grow more and we should be growing more, but we can't even handle the tiny bit we have now. And again, those corn guys and the soybean guys, they can't transfer over until shit changes.
Absolutely.
which sucks. So.
So as you look ahead in the industry right now, particularly from your vantage point, looking at it from more of an ag perspective, what are you most excited about that's coming down the line?
Opportunities, incentives. I mean, the legalization opened up Pandora's box for a lot of us. So I'm looking for incentives and opportunities, especially for veterans, which is my niche, farmers, small businesses. There's got to be a lot of positives coming out of this. It's crazy right now, but I see a lot of progressiveness happening, which is cool.
That is. I think New York has a pretty unique opportunity too to put the focus on small businesses if this is done right and it plays out better than what we've seen in states like Illinois.
I hope so, especially with the micro business opportunity, equity clause they put in there. There is a lot of opportunities. I hope people do their due diligence and read it and understand it. And, you know, don't just go to the next lawyer and pay them a chunk of change to write you up a business plan because you didn't want to do your own reading. Read, actually give two shits about what you're putting in, because social equity does have a huge part right now. Women's, veterans, distressed farmers, disabled veterans, we have an opportunity right now. Don't take advantage of that. Do your due diligence, read the damn bills, pay attention to the backdoor amendments that are happening. And same thing in regards to the micro business opportunities. They may be limited, but there's cultivation, processing, retail, social opportunities for small businesses to find their niche, to get into that niche quick and establish this and make it truly unique. Because I think a lot of people have their heart set on New York City bringing in a majority of the money, and all these big cities like Rochester and Binghamton and Syracuse. It's a huge opportunity for us small town, small businesses right now to put our foot in the door and really reap the benefits of these small business opportunities. And we should, and I hope we do. So yeah. It's unique.
It is. And there's a lot of small towns and ex-manufacturing towns in upstate that could really use a push in business like this, to use, you know, abandoned factories to turn around and do processing in and to put some of these things back to work.
Well, in New York, for instance, where I live,
we
have a huge crime rate. We have a huge employment rate. We have a lot of rental capacities. We have a huge drug problem. I'm sitting here knowing that 4% of the tax goes back to that local municipality, not county, but municipality, town, village, city, wherever that business is at. 4% goes back and they do whatever they want for it. They could put up drug and alcohol education classes. They can open up their own Canna agritourism social lounge and have a social lounge right there. Especially if you're huge with HUD-VASH Section 8 housing developments where you're not allowed to consuming out in public. So now the town owns a social entity and reaps the benefits while also collecting the tax dollars from that same social entity that they also own. So I'm like approaching towns this way, like letting them know, like, no matter what, it's legal. You got no choice. The only thing you can opt out of until December 31st is dispensaries and social lounges. You can't stop cultivation. You can't stop processing. You can't stop possession. And you can't stop people from consuming it. What you can prevent is opportunities, jobs, tax incentives, a safe place to buy it, an affordable place to buy it, and a way to also have a safe place to consume it. Because if my social lounge is 15 miles away, you're acting like people aren't going to travel there and drive back. Is that what you want? You're acting like if a dispensary is not here in Fulham, one's not going to be in the city of Oswego. Now, I'm not saying Fulton's doing that because they're not by any means, but this is just reference. So people are going to drive and they're going to do this, and we're not going to reap any of these benefits. You're not going to stop the legalization. It's here. All we can do now as a town and a community is not impede that by making these stupid laws that impede it. All we can do now is press on the importance of training, development, education, and awareness. Getting into all the programs from law enforcement to bud tending to vendors to security and handler. We need to get all of these training up and going, whether the state mandates it or not. This is what us as a small town, we can exceed these precedents, set up zoning, coding policies in regards to submitting business plans and menus before you're approved, to make sure signage and lighting isn't crazy and to make sure the menus aren't appeasing to kids. So you have to go through that through zoning and coding. So we can make these things go through. We can also make it that shops have to be 200 or 500 feet apart from each other, not just arcades and kids area. So you're not having to shop all the way down these abandoned areas. There's ways to implement this to make it safe and to make it realistic and opportunistic while maintaining the characteristics of your town and even small towns like myself. So I see it as it's already passed. It's already here now. Taking the opportunity, reap the benefits, and press on the education. And that's all we can do now. Legit.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about that education, because as you said earlier, we are just fed such a steady stream of misinformation about this plant and what it can do, that it really is the starting point to making it more acceptable and welcome in communities as a revenue generator.
Absolutely. And in a multitude of ways that I'm not even thinking right now, you know? I mean, I see so much change and so much opportunity, and I hope more towns, more cities, more smaller municipalities that don't want to see the larger cities be the only ones that reap the benefit from this, because Rochester will, Syracuse will, Binghamton will, Albany, fuck yeah, New York City, of course. Places like Oswego, we don't even have a medical marijuana dispensary, you know, small towns. So we're pushing all the money here by not having it here. So we need to embrace it and exceed expectations, create those optimal results, and be at the forefront of this, especially with the small businesses. And counties like mine, if anybody knows about medical marijuana is through Department of Health. Health requires medical marijuana companies to be vertically integrated, seed to branded product, fully controlled company. Helps maintain compliance, regulations, whatever. The only vertically integrated companies out of the new MRTA bill will be micro businesses. And even then, they're heavily regulated. You can only grow certain your own varieties. You can only have your products on your shelves. It'll be strict. But what's cool about the new MRTA bill is that vertically integrated companies get to exist, which means we get to compete with those corporate vertical integrated margins. Not at their intense level because we're more restricted, but we can. What's cool about Oswego, in my county, is we don't have a medical marijuana dispensary. So the current bill states that the pre-existing medical marijuana companies can only choose 3 of their pre-existing locations to make recreational. Can't expand, they can't build more, they can only pick existing ones, which means we got no medical marijuana recreational companies in this whole fucking county. So if we don't open small business dispensaries, I'm gonna go nuts.
Yeah,
we have a huge opportunity in this county. So I want to see Oswego take off.
I would love to see small businesses across the state, like you said, take off and really empower these communities that have been kind of disenfranchised for the last 40 or 50 years with the departure of manufacturing, to find that pride in community, find that character of the town, like you said, and really embrace this as an opportunity to revitalize that tight-knit community feel.
And like you mentioned earlier, we have so much infrastructure sitting here from companies like Nestle and all those other that just got up and left.
Yeah.
Lots, we have buildings, we have infrastructure across New York. You want to know what they do when they build a highway? It's not realistic to ship cement to a lot of these places. So they find a lot, they build a temporary factory, and guess what they do when they're done? They leave it there. Mm-hmm. So little cement factories, just like down in Texas, that are just sitting all over. And I'm like, let's use what we got. Yeah. You don't build new shit. You got old breweries. I'll show you how to make the cheapest distillation factory out of leftover brewery, especially if it's got copper piping. I'll make it for you at a fraction of the cost. It's like right now with like getting these distillation companies and all that, it's like charging a wedding rose. Like any day of the week, you'll buy a rose for $1, but you charge it for a wedding rose and it's like $5. And it's like, why? Mm-hmm. You suck. Like, it's the same thing with these distillation companies. I'm like looking at them and looking at all their systems and they're telling me how much they spent. And I'm like, so was it really, and excuse my language here, but was it really like a big dick competition? Like, did you, Sammy Joe, just have to buy it because Billy Bob had a $200,000 one and you had to buy a $500,000 one? No offense, but we could have built this for like 40 grand. Like, I know half of the guys with moonshine distills that build them better than this. Like, and I'm looking at these guys who are spending so much money on this technology and this infrastructure that's outdated all the time. And it's not like you just turn it in and upgrade like a fucking laptop.
Mm-hmm.
You're spending all this money, all this shit on technology, and it's always changing. And I'm sitting here looking at half of these infrastructures that pre-exist. Near the Finger Licks, we have so many breweries and breweries, a ton of them not even being utilized. And I'm like, so you got a storefront and a prior mill or a brewery? Yeah.
We have so much real estate up here that's just not being used. And it could be put to good use without digging up more materials, putting people to work, building a new building, installing all this new like water and electricity. Like, it's right there. Just use what we have.
People are so focused on, again, commoditization, commercialization, making that money. Be in the cities. They want to be near the colleges. They want to be in the tourist areas. Me, I'm like fucking small town all day. I eventually want, I wouldn't call it a franchise because I haven't put a name to it yet, but Ananda Farms to be owned by a bunch of veterans and have Ananda Farms all over in all these small towns and villages, just owned by veterans all over the place. And I'm like, small towns is where it's at. Rural communities where it's at. Keep your city, eat it. You'll make, that's fine, you know, and that's where their focus is. And yes, they may make higher streams of revenue, but our customer base and our returns will be a lot better. Mm-hmm. But they're so focused on the city where the competition is insane. The tourism is nuts. I see where they're going at, and I wish them the best. And everybody can fight and compete all they want in Syracuse and New York City and in Rochester and Binghamton. I'm going to stick to Oswego. I'm going to stick to my small towns. I'm going to open up shop in small towns and in rural communities.
I love that because there's not enough people who are looking at these small towns and saying, but the residents here deserve this too. The residents here can be good customers. The residents here can benefit from this money staying in their community and moving around within the community.
I want my money to go back to my local municipality. And these other people may care about sales. And yes, I care about sales. Obviously, I can't go broke helping people, but I care about my sales and returning customers. They care about sales, period. They don't care whether you return, you buy from them, get them, you're a fucking tourist most of the time. Make the sales, get on out, go. I care about my returning customers. I want people. A lot of these guys are building companies and building brands, and they think a brand is a business. And I preach this all the time. A brand is not a business. You can create loyalty, brand loyalty, and establish a brand around a business, but then you're like, what's really CSR? Is corporate social responsibility something you just type up on a piece of paper and say you're going to practice and preach? Or is it something that's actually embedded into your company, into your company's DNA, and it's something you actually do? So for us, I care about returning customers. I care about helping the little man that doesn't have access to it in the small towns that are under forgotten or not thought of at all, because so many people are worried about getting into the big cities and getting those sales. They're not worried about the customers, the patients, some of them who are medical marijuana patients as well, just looking for better access. So me as a recreational dispensary, not a medical marijuana dispensary, again, there is no medical marijuana dispensary up here in Oswego. But if I could provide affordable, safe access to medical marijuana patients here in my county who don't have to travel to Oswego or Rochester or Binghamton anymore and can get it here. Yes, it's at a recreational level, but fuck, it's local. And my money goes back local. So I'm like, I'm happy for people that they're trying to open up shop. I'm worried that a lot of the licensures will get pushed into these heavy revenue streamed cities. And again, rural communities would be an afterthought, but that's my focus. That's my foci. That's my niche. And I hope Oswego just kicks ass.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys have the land for growing, you have the infrastructure for processing, you have everything you need right there to really let this be a boon to the community.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it will be. I know it will be. I know it will be.
So you touched on a moment ago, social equity and corporate social responsibility. And obviously that is not something you pay lip service to. It's something you take very, very seriously.
Yes, absolutely.
So at any given time, how many veterans do you have helping out on the farm?
Oh, it's all different, especially seasonal and during harvest. During harvest, I mean, normally they we get a couple that come by themselves. A lot of them carpool and bring a buddy, especially on the second time. Oh, next time I come, I'm bringing Matt with me. And it's like, yeah. During harvest, I mean, a dozen plus. I mean, this year at the U-Pick, even more because we're doing the U-Pick operation. But prior, when it was just harvest, it was just the fields, getting them out, getting them dried. A dozen plus. We just shoot the shit, have fun, go row by row. It's a great time.
Makes it more fun when you have a bunch of people there who are enjoying what they're doing together.
Oh God, yeah, and veterans kick ass. I don't know if people know about this, but we are so persistent and disciplined, knowledgeable, and easy to train, I guess you could say, because we're disciplined in that principle. They just kick ass, dude. Fellow vets, when we all get together, and whether it's taking down a fence or chopping up plants, I never see more group of people than veterans wipe through a fucking field and do it with like a smile and a smirk and a fun. And yeah, we laugh, we cry together, we do all that. But dude, veterans are hard workers. We kick ass. So I love having them here. When they're here, I'm like, yeah, shit's getting done today. You know? And it just happens to be my niche as a fellow vet. So it's an honor for me to share my farm with them, get the education out, get the awareness out, provide jobs, provide opportunities and training, build up some resumes while also getting them the therapy they like. You know, I'm sitting here in my perspective going, man, you're helping me pinch these plants and cut these colas, and I'm gonna buy pizza and give you weed, and like, damn, we gotta pay. And these guys, they come to me, go, no, this is my therapy. This is where I get away. I love learning about the plant. They go, when I started growing, my plants were like this and dying, and now I got these like 8-foot girls, and they're like, you're teaching us so much. And it's like, you know, I didn't realize the impact it had on them beyond, you know, building the basic resume and getting some jobs and an opportunity to get away on the field. I didn't realize all of the therapy and aspect that I was getting out of it as well as them. And, you know, that's what really sparked us to drive this even more. And now it's like, we have vets in and out all the time. I fucking love it.
What is it about sticking your hands in the dirt and tending to something that's living that is so intensely therapeutic and so releasing?
Oh, I don't know. We call it dirt therapy or agro cognitive therapy. And we believe to create post-traumatic growth through a lot of these non-traditional therapies, yoga, meditation, gardening. And I don't know, there's just something about it. Like, that's kind of where Ananda came from. It's Sanskrit. It's like a way of being. And it's to say internal joy, but it's the best way to describe it. So it's this internal joy that you have the opposite of. And the best way to get to this state of being is for one to connect with oneself. They need to connect with nature. And it's minusing all those external factors. So for me, connecting with nature just helps me personally slow things down. I can listen to myself. I can connect with myself. I connected with this plant. This plant's helped me a lot, and a lot of other plants and botanicals and fungi. So I don't know. I see this, feel this sense of clarity, feel this sense of fresh breathing room while I'm out there, where we can create this kind of nomad but communal setting. And we, you know, there's plenty of space, plenty of room. And I don't know, the plants in the field just help me be vulnerable, allow me to be weak. I perform my talk therapy a lot better there than I do a 5x5 cubicle. And when you're in the dirt and you're ripping apart the weeds or you're pushing the mower, you kind of zone out and you can think of shit. And I don't know, it just has this therapy to it, this release to it that I just can't put into words.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something so intensely grounding about just being out there, dirt in your hands, breathing the fresh air, and knowing that you're working with the earth to produce something beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's that production. Maybe that, especially, I'm somebody that has lived in survival mode for a long time throughout my life, even from childhood up until military and PTSD and epilepsy. And I think living that survival mode plus that constant, like I am an adrenaline rush, thrill seeker, nothing's fast enough, nothing's strong enough, nothing's hard enough, just how I live. And these slow me down. These plants slow me down, the fields slow me down, and it really helps me. Yeah, it helps ground and it helps connect. And I think it provides that sense of hope, that sense of purpose, meaning. Like, when I got out of the military, I just didn't feel it anymore. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a mission. So what was my purpose? Where was my hope? What was I doing? I felt very useless, and blindfolded at that. And then the plant came along and I'm like, if I don't water it, it dies. If I don't give it its care, it dies. And then it grew from one plant in one tent to a couple tents to many tents to now a whole farm. And I fucking love it. I don't know. It's the only place where I can go out and feel more purpose. Like this is my sense of purpose, to connect with the vets when they get out, show them that they have meaning, they have a place they belong. I have a place I belong. We can connect here. We can be vulnerable here. We can be weak here. And we can still do that while getting shit done. And it feels good when you look back at the field and you see the gorgeous plants that you made. And you see the seedlings starting to pop up in the greenhouse that you water 4 hours every day, 7 days a week for, and you start seeing them pop and you're like, I fucking did that, It feels good.
Absolutely. I love what you're providing for people, and I love what you're providing for your community, because if you don't have somebody spearheading this charge, it's easy to just let the misinformation spread and stay that way. And when you have one person who is committed to enacting change in the community, you see such a ripple effect. I love that.
Thank you. I feel still very naive and ignorant to much about this, and that's due to lack of, again, the research that we need. But we're learning all the time. We're happy and willing and okay with making mistakes because we learn from them and we grow from them and we get the research we need from them. And I'm just hopeful for the future and hopeful for where this plant's going, where this farm's going, where opportunities are coming. And this is just the beginning for us, beyond the U-Pick, beyond the product line, a lot more jobs, a lot more opportunities, especially for my fellow vets and small. And we're going to kick ass. I got good faith.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your vision for Ananda Farms and Veterans Ananda in 5 or 10 years? What is that going to look like?
Oh boy, well, we do definitely have long-term and short-term goals. I'm always adapting to that as laws and policies and things change and research comes out. And, I think the biggest thing in 5 to 10 years, I hope that we are continuing to listen and shutting the fuck up and paying attention to what people need. Hoping we're staying true to that mission. For Veterans Ananda, that we're continuing our short duration high impact retreats, our long-term post-traumatic growth programs, that we have a land with the tiny homes, with the veteran village, with lodges for male and female lodge, with an organization lodge where all the local organizations can have a spot. We have a place for therapies where we truly are now on the forefront of showing people what a non-one-size-fits-all approach looks like, what an individualized approach to care looks like, how it is possible to integrate public and private healthcare to help veterans. And I see Ananda Farms. I hope Ananda Farms is, I don't know, again, I use the term franchise lightly, but I hope Ananda Farms is in a franchise or franchise-like concept where we have a bunch of veterans all over starting up their own Ananda Farms social lounges or dispensaries or cultivars. And I hope I know that we will have more jobs and opportunities at that. And I'm also hoping that Ananda Institute comes to fruition within the 5 years as well. A training and development center I've been working on to help with bud tending, vendor, cultivar, niche training, but it also has school programs, consulting, and pilot programs, I guess you could say, certification programs for veterans and small farmers to go through courses. So we have a lot of plans coming up in the future for our companies and for our organizations. And I'm very hopeful, very excited, very blessed for the community, because without the community, this wouldn't have been possible. So I thank them. And again, we'll continue to show our best efforts in our CSR, showing we're not just another corporation. Social responsibility. We believe in helping others. We believe if an individual is happy and they go home and create a happy family, the happy family creates happy foundations and communities. So one person at a time, you know, we've been paying it forward. And I think the future for what we have here, especially in Oswego County, looks very amazing. And I'm blessed for this opportunity.
What is something that you are incredibly proud of that you don't get to talk about a lot?
Oh gosh. I mean, I hope I talk about them enough. Every time I hear that word proud, I just think of the community, our volunteers, our staffs, our veterans, my wife. Like I don't talk about her enough because she's a graduate from Syracuse, a master's degree, LMSW, but she gave up her career to help me here at the farm, or not gave up, postponed it. So she can go back and also get her PhD and open up her own clinical office, but also work here at the farm to give me hands because we needed more here. And so she's a big one that I really need, that I'm proud of, that I'm thankful for. And I guess overall for the both of us, now that I'm thinking about her, the sweat equity, the bullshit and the sweat equity that we put into this, the long nights, the persistence, the motivation, the encouragement. I'm really proud of us just sticking to it and staying true to our mission, our vision. And even though we're sitting here 3 years later and I feel like I'm going slow, I got everybody around me telling me I'm going fast. And I'm like, no, where's my village? Where's my lodges? Where's this land? We need more veterans in here. We should have bought a factory by now and had so many people hired. And they're like, cannabis just legalized. You didn't even have a way to do this with hemp, nor was it realistic. And you know that, that's why you haven't. And you've been holding tight. And I'm like, yeah, but it sucks. Like I've had to be the most patient, impatient person. That's because of, and I've been able to be patient and hold on even through those times where I'm like, it's 4 a.m. and this is the 6th night up in a row. It's from the community just motivating me, those random texts, those random messages, people stopping up to volunteer, my wife staying up just as late as I am, sweat and tears and blood. And it's like, I don't think people realize what we've put into this and done, you know, how many hats we truly have and do wear in order to do this, not because we fucking want to, but because we have to, because we either don't have the volunteers or can't exert the volunteers, because people confuse managerial and executive team with volunteers. And you can't exert all this energy on a staff that's not volunteered and paid. So I have to do a lot of paperwork and they just check it and review it for me. I got to do a lot of marketing with my wife and all that until we can get to those paid positions, but you can't make money overnight. My parents didn't leave me with a ton of money. And I'm sorry, I can't just go to the bank and say, hey, I need a startup loan, because as an LGBTQ veteran woman with all those check boxes, I don't give a fuck. There's no such thing as a startup loan. Funny. And I'm still 2 years, 8 months in business, and still to this day don't qualify under the 3 years of basic startup criteria to this day. So people don't realize, like, I don't get a paycheck. She doesn't get a paycheck. Even with her just going back to school and working on the farm full time, we haven't collected. When it goes back to starting up the products, getting the tiny homes, working on donations, getting the tiny homes built by the local high schools, and now creating the product line. But now I'm at a point with my hemp company as a vertically integrated company to compete in that micro business opportunity. As a successful hemp company for 3 years, vertically integrated at that, we have a successful opportunity now to compete as a micro business in a vertically integrated opportunity for the cannabis legalization. As a nonprofit, we've established so much networking, so many opportunities, so many sponsorships, and enough revenue from this to build that credibility we needed. Because at first it was, yeah, I'm going to build a farm. I'm going to have vets stay with me, and I'm going to have retreats. And even though it sounded a lot more educated than that, I didn't have a farm. I didn't have tiny homes. I didn't even have a staff. So now we have an advisory board, an executive board, 2 homes here, 2 more on the way, another one being built. We're working with the mayor to get land. We got a product line. We got banking finally, which was insane, and insurance. And I'm looking at it going, we finally got the credibility and validity we needed on both ends to get to where we need to go, to also help me realize this is realistic. All the fucking people telling you it's a pipeline dream, it's not going to happen, are the same people that told you cannabis would never legalize in the state. And look where the fuck we at. So you know what? It's not a pipeline dream. Vets need these tiny homes. Vets need these retreats. They also need these products. I have enough credibility and validity under me now after doing this that I am more confident than I have ever been. And on my 3-year mark, even though I would love to see this way surpass where it's at now, I am extremely proud of where we're at and happy. But this is just the start.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is just the beginning. Yeah.
I mean, give it another 10 years. Imagine the amount of land, the amount of tiny homes, the amount of retreats that you can host. I mean, compounded over time, it's a huge impact.
Absolutely. And we got to think of longevity, not just right now. You know, think global, act local, be realistic, be clear with your missions and your expectations and all that. But we at the same time also have to realize that there may be limitations that we have to work with. You know, when COVID hit, especially being one of them, I know it's a sore subject and I really didn't want to bring it up, but the COVID hit, especially as a nonprofit, everything from our monetary donations, even to our frequent flyer mile donations, plummeted. And yet, as a for-profit entity, we're labeled as an essential business and being open and all that, but it was quite a shit show. So we really have to be adaptive. You got to just shut up and listen to what the people need. And I think that's what really makes us unique and stand out as opposed to all these other corporations that are getting in, trying to commoditize and think what people want and not listening to what people want and need. So I'm really hopeful for us, and I am blessed at this opportunity and thankful enough that cannabis is even legalized here in the first place for us to do this. I mean, real still.
So you guys have a store opening in a month, which is super exciting.
Yeah, we do.
So when customers come to you, what do you want them to take away from an experience at the U-Pick farm or just at the store with you?
I want people to come here open-minded, whether you're familiar about the plant, whether you're not familiar about the plant, come, ask questions, be open-minded, network, meet friends, have fun, and get educated. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'd rather have you come here and ask the questions and not leave still blindfolded or with concerns or with worry or with what ifs. I want people to just come, be open-minded and have fun. Ask questions, ask away. The best thing we can do right now is press the education.
Yes.
And I think if anything, especially with dispensaries and social lounges and at-home grows coming here soon, the most or the least I can do right now is to help as many people as they can with their worries, with their concerns, with their what ifs. So come open-minded and come have fun.
All right, this has been wonderful, and I so appreciate you sharing some time with me. I have one more question for you that I like to end with. What is your favorite fun fact about cannabis?
Endocannabinoid system. Can anybody ask me what's my favorite thing about cannabis? I say the endocannabinoid. It's in our body, but it connects to cannabis, and it's so fun to learn about. Yeah,
it is. It blew my mind when I learned about this system. Like I had an entire system in my body that I never even knew about.
Yep, that connects with the plant, with receptor cannabinoids, and we're like, wait, anandamide, 2-AG, all these protons, and the same molecular makeup as CBD, and I have it in me. Yeah, you do. Appetite and sex drive and sleep and all this stuff in it. Endocannabinoid system, it's the coolest shit in the world. Look it up. Oh, I love it.
You might have thought you understood your body, but guess what? There's a new surprise coming out now.
You know, I don't. No, it's so much fun. I definitely the endocannabinoid system, because I think that's the foundation of learning about how we work, how the plant works, and how we can work together with the plant. So I love learning about that system. And again, when people come to the U-Pick, October 9th, it'll start, but it'll go to the 23rd. There'll be a ton of staff and knowledgeable people there. So if people have questions like this, yes, we are limited as to what we can talk about and say. It's just Department of Health in New York and how they work. But I am going to be as open and as awesome and as knowledgeable as I can. And I will have enough resources and links to give you, to guide you in the right way so you can do basic research as well. And nobody will leave home blindfolded. So this is the stuff I really want people to talk about and know. Beyond what you take it home and make a product or do whatever. Yes, it's awesome and it's cool and it's affordable and it's accessible. And yes, it's therapeutic. But why? How? I want those questions to start popping up.
Yeah, I think once you understand that we have this system, that our brain produces these cannabinoids, it just automatically kind of shifts your perspective on it from something that is bad and illegal and, dangerous to, well, wait a second, if I produce these things, they can't be that bad.
Yep, that's what I hope. I hope the basics and a little bit of knowledge can ease people's minds and worries. Like I said, we grew up with doctors, with parents, with ourselves, with school programs, all embedded and engraving us. And I hear the worry and I hear the frustration. I agree with people. People should be really upset with how education has been pressed for years in this nation. But now's the time for change. Now's the time for adaptation. Now's the time to learn. Now's the time to embrace research, embrace change, embrace a better future of plant-based and botanical medicines for our kids, so that we're not relying on the Benadryl and the Tylenol and all these other. I'm not saying medications don't have a place. They do. I'm not saying any of that, but I'm saying that I hope that we become less reliant on them. And plant-based medicine, botanical medicine is no longer an afterthought. It's a forethought.
Yes, absolutely. There is a time and a place. These things are important and there's a reason that we have them, but they don't necessarily need to be the first thing we reach for every single time.
Yeah. Mitigation, harm reduction. We'll get there. Again, favorite day, education.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. This has been awesome.
No, thank you. This has been a great opportunity. I really appreciate you and hope to see you October 9th.
Oh, I will absolutely be there.
New York's first and only. So, it'll be fun. I look forward to seeing you.
Excited for that.
Thank you.